Pleasure to introduce Joe Roets, founder and CEO of Dragonchain.
Hello. Yes. Can you hear me? Everything good? All right. So, I need the clicker. Didn't see it. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about Dragonchain today, and basically, it's a cryptoware community forum. So one or other, some of this stuff is repeated from this morning, of course, or this afternoon, earlier this afternoon, where current social media is broken. You know, there's FUD, there are trolls, there's spam, there's scams, and it's all a mess, right? And this is somewhat our approach to fix a lot of that and to tokenize it and to use it ourselves. This wasn't something that was on the roadmap at Dragonchain. This was very much just something that we saw that we needed to do and just started to do. And we're also already starting to use it. We are going to be moving all of the FAQ onto this. We're going to be moving all of the Academy materials onto this. We're going to be putting together a lot of different systems where we'll be using this so that we can track things better, and that, like say, support will be through Dragonchain. Is it looking good? Okay, forget it. I can't remember what was next after that slide, so let's see. Sorry. Okay, current problem. Facebook, that's how you contact old friends, right? Old people you went to school with, right? What's the problem? Fake news. Who owns the data? Who owns you? Zuckerberg. Twitter, right? Twitter full of spam, the worst crypto scams, the worst stupidity. It's junior high, right? It's worse than junior high, okay? It's 40-year-old junior high kids on Twitter, right? That's all it is. And Jack, who doesn't care about that. Telegram, right? Telegram's actually kind of interesting because they actually have some good identity pieces, but as soon as you answer someone in a forum, 30 seconds later, it's gone. Somebody else comes back and asks the exact same question. Somebody has to answer them, so you get all this noise, everything over and over and over again, same question answered over and over. Linking's kind of sloppy. The passing around of identity between your devices is kind of sloppy. That's not so bad. Of all of these, it's probably the least bad. Reddit, karma has no value. I can upvote all damn day. It means nothing whatsoever. That's what happens. And they will change your data if they so choose to. If they just disagree with whatever you're saying, it's like, oh, we'll change your data. All right. So the core principles of what we're building are to reward users for contributing quality content, right? That's a primary, right? And that's somewhat happened in other forums. There are a couple out there that you guys all know about, but it's still a little bit, can I use that? Okay. It will become spam, FUD, and scam resistant because we are using DDSS on the way in, so it's a little harder to troll. Plus the fact that it will be tokenized, so there is this skin in the game aspect where if I put something out that is spam or is inappropriate for whatever group that I am posting it to, I'm going to lose some value. I mean, it's going to become very expensive if I keep trying to spam people or scam people, because I'm just going to lose everything that I put in there for my skin in the game. And it's ad-free. I mean, the intent is that if I have quality content, I won't need to place ads to make money. That, Dragonchain will take a cut of everything, small piece across the board, but our incentive should be not to attract advertisers, but to attract better content so that people want to see it, right? Okay. So that means we've basically taken consideration of two user roles. Content creators, obviously, right? Where we want to bring in the best content creators possible by rewarding them well. And perpetually. That is, if I write something that is valuable for 10 years, I'm still making something off of it 10 years later. If I write something that's, some value for this week because it's topical or something, it's value while it's value. And the interesting piece is we are going to reward the content evaluators as well. That is, when you upvote something, if you upvote early enough something that turns out to be quality content, you will be rewarded longer. And the replies themselves are content. That's a content creator piece that I'm rewarded if I provide a quality reply, even to a a decent, it's not spam maybe, but not the best post ever. I could make a reply that might be far more valuable than the post itself, right? So those are interesting aspects, and the whole thing is an economy built in. Is that you or me? Okay. So, you see misspelling here. Sorry about that. So this is a layer, and a layer is basically like a subreddit, right? So it's basically a community of people who are in there for the same purpose, and they worked all night last night, so they did a lot of, so don't blame. Anyway, that's topic-oriented room, right? It's a typical thing. People understand this. It's community. They have their own community guidelines, their own rules, things like that. It can be owned by individuals or a group. I mean, imagine if you could own a subreddit and actually own it, right? That's what we're doing here, where it'll be formally tokenized that you can have a layer, own it, you can split ownership with other people, and they can help manage it and do the things that you need to do, typically in a community. As examples, you could get the crypto or the world news or one of these layers, and set your own rules. And it's somewhat there are fees. So if you're not successful, you're going to have to let it go to somebody else. You have to produce quality content with it. So as fast as possible. So a post is a post. Everybody knows what that is. So I'm posting content. It could be arbitrarily large. It could be an article, right? We want to make this where it wouldn't be just, I'm posting a picture or a single concept, but I might post a full article, right? And that created by an individual within a particular layer. So I have to know that I'm putting out quality because I understand this community and what it values. And I have to put some skin in the game in that post. And we have some different economic models, so we can't give details right now because we're still experimenting, and some of the beta work will be around that. It can be upvoted, it can be flagged. Basically, it is evaluated over a period of time and by activity in the community to determine, is this worthwhile, is this not, right? The community kind of determines that, and my rewards for that content are based entirely upon that determination. So, next slide. Okay, so comments or replies are basically just like in, say, Reddit, a threaded reply where I can give my feedback on a particular idea that the original poster made. I can enter into a dialogue with other people. Again, all the same rules. If I provide quality that is evaluated as high quality by the community, I will be rewarded. That's the whole point in it. They can be made, and it would probably be easiest to show you, they'll be made against individual concepts in the system, and we'll just have to show you. Next slide. Okay, product demo. Now. Sorry, it's already there, right? No, it's not. Okay, here we go. So, all right, so we have, this is a real product now. It is I guess you would consider it alpha. So one way or another, you see on the left side a flag, right? That flag is generated based upon a salted, hashed address of the user, so that we can basically see every time you post. I can easily relate, that's Joe, that's Joe, that's Joe. And when you see the post, it'll be a little more clear. We have, is this my layers? Go to layers. So these are all of the layers. So I can subscribe to them as you would, the typical pattern. Different topics, different communities. Some of them will have special rules about anonymity, some won't. And that's pretty much by the owner of the layer. They get to decide those things. So these are the layers that are subscribed to. So we can go into one layer. And we can see the posts in that layer, right? So the posts are, ranked depending upon what you're looking at, whether they're ranked on new or on the most valued ones, sorting, normal stuff, right? Or your own posts. So when you go into a post, this is one of the more interesting things, in my opinion, but much, very much one of the harder things to describe. That when you make a post, we use natural language to break the post into individual concepts or ideas, right? So you see him, he's navigating through, and if you like say roll that back up, so you can see these are just the top level ideas in this post, in this article, right? You can say, oh, I'm interested in that, and you can expand it and drill down into it, but every single concept is atomic. So the system knows that that's an idea. The system doesn't know what the idea is, but it knows it's an idea, which means that you can comment rather than going up into a page and highlighting something and copying it and pasting it into a reply box at the bottom of the article. You can go directly in there and reply directly to a single concept, okay? And it's interesting for a bunch of different reasons, because now you can actually see a dialogue as if you're reading a book, right? Where I can see people talking back and forth in line with the actual article itself, right? And contextually it makes a lot of sense, and for the economics it makes a lot of sense, because if we only allowed bottom level replies, we wouldn't know how to reward the people that built the content that ended up with this dialogue, which ends up being valuable dialogue. So the fact that someone replies to your reply or to your original post or concept means you get a small cut of the value of that reply as well. It's a small cut, but you get a piece because you prompted it. And there's some economic pieces we're working on whether that's always the same amount of reward or if it's based solely upon the value of your content itself. But either way, it's a really interesting piece. And you can see the flags on each of them. And, we're working on the UI. There's a lot to be done here. One of the other big, so here's the flag, right? So this is, we're going to have the ability to skin these because obviously you might generate some really ugly ones. And, that'll be funny probably. But either way, the intent is to help with identity, because with these forums, a lot of times people can impersonate each other. And with this, there's the ability, and without being able to tie it back to your Ethereum address as well, right? You can also see at the top here, because, and I'll tell you, this is part of this bit of software has been built for years and years and years, and we've integrated this in to Dragonchain as a case study. And how many transaction types were there? Is it 80, 88, 89 transaction types? Something like that. That they did this in the afternoon, right? Now, all of the UI and stuff, no, that's been taking time, but integrating it onto Dragonchain, they finished in a full day probably of work. I know they did it in the afternoon, and they had to change some stuff internally for one of the piece the next morning, right? So it's a pretty good case study. And we can see, how do I say this? At the top here of the document view, that there is a TLDR section, right? And that wasn't written by the author. That is live generated based upon a summarization algorithm that we have, which follows this tree of concepts. And so it is live updated as people work through this, and you see if you make a reply to one of these concepts, that it will be rendered into the TLDR, and it is based entirely upon the location in that hierarchy of concepts, and when we get the full economy involved, it will also be based, the summary will be based upon the most upvoted, the most valuable concepts in that entire structure, right? So both based upon where it is in the structure and how it is valued, the evaluation. What else can we show? Another piece was that moving from, if you guys know, our primary forum is pretty much Telegram, which again, it's kind of frustrating because of the time piece that we have to answer the same question over and over again. This is also, intended to help some of that because, like Reddit, this is a little more static. That I can point to one of these ideas or one of the, if they were a list of questions in an FAQ, I can point to them with the URL, and it can roll up that actual question, and everything's referenceable. We don't have to worry about stuff flying by. However, if you're on, if you're on Reddit, which would be the equivalent, you might be in a post and you don't know who's actively replying to some very deep nested comment on that post, right? There's no visibility. So we have, and this is really ugly right now, but we have a streaming mechanism as well. So that while you're inside of this post, you will see when people are replying, and you can say, oh, geez, that's Joe. I can click on it and it'll pull me down to that comment, and I can see the context. So we're solving it at the two things there where with this I can see the activity. I also have the persistent nature of the tree itself, and unlike say if you're on Slack or on Telegram, you can only go one level deep. I can reply to some comment, and I can get a tiny bit of context if I click that, and it takes me all the way back up in history, and so I can see what somebody said. And I can click again and see what somebody else said, and it's really kind of messy and hard to get the context of when somebody says something. Especially if they don't reply, then they could be answering any of the past 20 posts, and with this you have the ability to go in and see what's this person talking about, and kind of get into the conversation. What else we want to show? Oh, the other bit, it's of course all on Dragonchain. So, and right now this is just console based. You can see the transaction itself. This will be a provable thing. That is, when this is fully integrated, you will be able to pull up and say, okay, this concept was made on what date, and you'll be able to go back and prove that it went through the Dragonchain instance, that it was validated at level 2 by these 3 nodes owned by these parties, that it was the level 3 verification happened by this other independent party, that level 4 was done by Deloitte or Dragonchain or somebody else that is a known entity, and that it's the hash of it is living on this record on a level 5, which has been placed into Bitcoin and Ethereum and Neo. And the real intent is when we can pull the hash power into it and actually show since that date, last August, this many billions of dollars worth of hash power and or stake were applied in that block, right? Or those blocks that they're all interchained together. So it's basically that proof. So you can prove that Joe made this statement on this date, and no one's trying, the Reddit problem where the CEO actually goes into a database and changes a record, right? That we can prove that didn't happen. You can say, okay, this is really what was said. I can see that these keys that aren't held by Dragonchain have signed that, right? And then we'll pull in a lot of the other pieces with identity as well to try to get rid of impersonations, to make every single message a signed thing. So all the provability that we can. So now we have a kind of a dummy economy in here so that we could get some of the UI built in. We're working on some of the economic factors and how the tokenization works, and a bunch of really interesting angles on it. But we do know that we are going to have the ability to do multiple upvotes. That is, you can signal the value of something by putting skin in the game, and you could consider it a tip to the content creator. You could consider it staking, that I think this is going to be valuable, so I'm going to. You think about all the different problems in social. You look at Reddit. You get some forums where if there are brigading attacks, or if there is some known level of attack, that they will typically try to coax the community members to go into the new tab, so that because a lot of times the attacks happen in the new tab because that's when the post is the weakest, right? There's just a single upvote from a user, and if it gets downvoted, especially by a brigade, it'll never show up to the community. The community will never see it. And with this, what we are doing is rewarding. If you want to be a casual content consumer, by all means, you can do that. And it's a beautiful thing. But if you want to actually get in there and earn some value, you can go into the new tab and find posts that no one's evaluated yet and evaluate them. And you can say, once you get good at it, you're actually rewarded for your upvotes, which is, there's a cost if you get it wrong, but it's recoverable. Do anything demo? Okay, it's good for the demo. So go back to slides. Sorry. Mostly, they're okay. So the economy. We basically, to reward the positive contributions, penalize spam, FUD, scam, trolling. Skin in the game is a big piece. Like say, and this is not settled. We don't know exactly, but something in terms of you might have to place. Definitely, the upvotes themselves go, but and they go to the content creator and the path upward of the original content up into the layer, which gets a piece, up into Dragonchain, which gets a piece. So basically, if I upvote something, let's say 90% of it will go to the content creator, and the other 10% gets split amongst those other people. Something like that, right? Think about that as a model. But at the same time, there might be some level of an assertion that you put some token value into your post, which if it's spam, if the community does not value it, you will lose. However, if they do value it, you get that back after some period of time, after a certain amount of activity or a certain period of time. And the point is the skin in the game, that you aren't just going to post for no reason. It's not going to be outrageously expensive to post, and you'll get most of it. You'll get back the majority of the value, something like that. And then to have layer ownership rights with non-fungible tokens, which can be split amongst your moderators. And you think about it as like, okay, I'm done moderating this. It's developed in, and I'm making 5 or 10 grand a month on this layer. In dollar value, I could sell it to someone, and that they have to basically continue it on. It's the ability to actually own something that is that you put your time and effort into. So, so for product launch, we have it's already running. We're already using it. And we are going to bring in a closed beta, the Academy users, smaller set, but it's going to be very purpose-driven to document the processes that they're going through and the testing of the Academy curriculum and all of the certification procedures and everything else. Probably a lot of FAQ stuff, things like that. And it will also develop into support. So the people who are in the console right now that we expect that'll feed as well some of the adoption. Then we're going to go into a second phase, closed beta, which will be probably the different Telegram groups in succession, smaller to larger, where we let people come in and start playing with it and giving us feedback and letting us test all of the different pieces of it. And then, again, it's going to be tokenized, so there will be a token process, an airdrop of some type. We know it'll be DDSS based. We're trying to figure out some of the details about, what's the, if there's more than one token, there are a bunch of different things involved, but it will be interesting. So I think that's all of it, right? I think that's the whole thing. So does anybody have any questions?
On Telegram, there's Dragonchain discussion, the hodlers, the trader account, the devs, and you can have the same conversation going in different groups. Is there a way to reduce redundancy with this model?
Yes. And again, it's some of it's moderation, right? But as an example, we have a capability in the core system to do. This is hard to describe, but basically a linked concept. So I can have a post over here. You can have a post over here. I can find some particular piece of your post and link it into mine. So I get live updates. So as you change your stuff, it would update inside of mine because they're all atomic concepts and they're all the architecture is really flexible. So my intent right now is to say that let's say it costs, and this is totally. Don't hold me to this. Let's say it takes me 2 tokens to put up a post. So I have to basically get at least 3 upvotes, and then I'm okay, right? So there's some break-even point, so that I'm not going to risk stuff depending on the value of the tokens. But what about cross posts, right? What if I post something in the Bitcoin layer that should also be in the cryptocurrency layer, right? The typical is that I'm going to cut and paste it in, or I'm going to paste the same thing over here, or whatever else, and there's no traceability as to who made the original post. So I saw what you did, I just copied it and posted it over here. I get the karma. With this, the intent is that there are a couple of things. I mean, we have some natural language things we can do as long as the layers, like say any similar layer. If I know if I own a cryptocurrency layer, I would plug into all of the other crypto layers with the natural language stuff to at least try to avoid people copying stuff, right? So that basically I can say, I'm going to try to copy it and paste it in, and the system was like, well, it's an obvious duplicate or 20% duplicate, so there might be different rules, and there's a lot to figure out there. But just as easily, I can take that other post, and if that person maybe isn't in the cryptocurrency layer, they're a maximalist, they don't care about that, they just care about Bitcoin, I could cross-post it for a price. Now, they're still going to get the major reward, but I'll get a little cut, right? But I had to pay the skin to get into the second layer. And that's the ideal, because now I can just post it over there, I still get some reward, it's communicated well, and in fact, all of the replies are the same. So it doesn't matter which layer you're in, it's the same thread. So, and it's because it's all just a live link between the two, right? So.
Thanks. So am I hearing right that there's no ban function? Because, personally, I'm very stoked about that, but I think at the same time, I would, for example, on Telegram, I would not have done some of the things I did and said if I was losing money.
Yes, see, that's the point.
There's a great control mechanism, and I encourage you to maybe
But
stick with that.
We've considered that, and it's not final, right? But yeah, that's the intent. Like, you would be evaluated based on the quantity. You might say something that's not valuable, you don't really get rewarded. But if you say something that is FUD, or you purposefully violate community guidelines, then you're definitely going to lose whatever value you put in. And we have thought, like, say there are a couple of different mechanisms. We thought about blind voting. Thought about a few things where we can evaluate pretty early whether this is valuable or not, right? But it depends on the amount of traffic. So there are a lot of questions. Let's see here. But we have a concept of a dungeon for each layer, right? So you could basically go to a dungeon for a period of time. You can come back out. You go into the dungeon 3 times, and right, and you basically are out forever out of that layer. We've also thought there is a consideration that I had where, okay, let's say I set the community guidelines, and I turn this thing on, and now the community kind of goes sideways a little bit. And I was like, no, that's not the intent, right? How do we at least have a little bit of leverage as the owner or the admin or the mod? And we've thought about having a 4th token. I say 4th, another token. We don't know yet, which would be a ban hammer token, which would be like a permanent ban. But there's a cost involved, and there's a scarcity. You can't just ban everybody, right? You have to say, is it really worth banning? I don't want to spend the money today, right? And the ability to say this token is not tradable outside, it's totally internal, and the price, I'm exposing way too much, but whatever. The price goes down, right? That if I just generated a banhammer token, I can't just go and sell it because nobody's going to buy it because it's too expensive, right? But the longer I hold it, and I'm not using, let's say my forum is all rainbows and kittens, and there's no reason to ever ban anyone. But you have a forum that is, it's all the people that left Twitter, right? And so it's nothing but trolls. So you're banning people left and right. So you're going to need to go and find people that will sell these tokens. And the older tokens are cheaper for you to buy. So you're buying them from the people that don't need them, like me. So so we've thought about that. And just like advertising. Ideally, you shouldn't need advertising at all, because if you have quality content, then the people should come there. And if the people are coming there, then the quality content is getting rewarded. And if the quality content is getting rewarded, you're going to probably get more quality content. And that's what it should be. So and the banning is unknown, right? But it's going to be something like that.
Hey, so how would you take into account somebody who's sharing information through a video? So maybe they have a mining setup video, right? So how are you extracting the information, the good information they're providing, and using that format where you can get that TLDR, or you can get the good stuff out of the video?
The video itself, generally, philosophically, the video is a single concept. Now, that's not entirely true, right? Obviously. But as far as this, at the base level, boom, that's what it is. Now, if you have captioning, right? If you have a transcript built in, then obviously we can pull the transcript out and you can comment on the things that were said in the video, which would be really what you want. Otherwise, you kind of, you revert back to, that's like one article in a 30-minute video. You're going to end up with a thread of comments below it. But at the same time, it'll be rewarded, based upon that. And I guess when you think about it too, if I make a 2-sentence post, or if I post a cat picture, right? Or versus if I post a academic article, like what would be a Medium article normally, that it's broken up into tons of different concepts, and I'm getting rewards for all of them. So I'm not, because I own all of those original concepts, if someone upvotes something down deep, I get the reward. Ideally you would have transcripts. Now theoretically we could, you could do processing to get the transcripts, right? I mean, you can automatically do that. Yes. And so if you, whether you're the original poster or whether you are anywhere in depth, if you fire off a lot of comments that make a lot of money, and especially if you upvotes, I'll say mine, especially if yours is upvoted, that's the most direct, right? If they upvote your comment, then you're getting the lion's share of that upvote. And it's not just, it's some score that's just being minted out of nowhere. It's actually coming out of my token wallet and going into yours with the cuts taken out for fees up the chain. And so the more comments below yours, the more you spawn quality content, the better, right? And that's different than the evaluator. In the evaluator, we've thought about different things. Like, say, the upvote is the most obvious, but there is also the potential to put information markets on all of these things. You know, if somebody flags something, it could potentially go to an information market outcome. We aren't sure yet. There's a lot of complexity there. So.
The idea also is to, the layer owner could specify how much the authors that post in their layer get paid.
Yes.
And incentivize authors to post in their layer.
Right. Because you get two different forums that might be competing for the same community, and if you either just have a better reputation, or if you just don't take as many fees, you will attract better content, because the writers will post there because they want to make more money, and as well as other parts of the equation get tuned, the DDSS, that you could, in my layer, let's say, I don't want anyone to be able to see it unless they have DDSS. You have to have DDSS to even read it. Others might say, no, anybody can read it, but to post, you have a certain DDSS. And to post an image, you have to have a certain DDSS. To post a link that might be a scam, you have to have an higher DDSS. And all of these potentially even come with, they might be more, not expensive, but you might have to put more skin in the game to do one of those things. Because, okay, if this is a scam link, then you've had to put in 5 tokens instead of 2 just to make that post. And you'll get them back if it's not a scam, right? And so it's that type of thing, and there's a lot of neat things you can do. So,
quick question. So I understand I can contribute content to the Dragon Den. Can I contribute code? Is this open source, or will it be open source? And similar to that, will you allow for third-party clients?
What's that?
And also, will you allow for third-party clients, like Twitter used to originally, and then kick them off?
Definitely third-party clients. Yeah, definitely. Whether it's open source or not, I know some parts of it will be. I don't know yet which. Like, say, as an example, there's a lot of processing that happens in browser. So, of course, that's going to be open source. There will be some pieces in the back end, particularly integration pieces, that are definitely going to be open source, because we want more integration, not less. We already have a few different ideas for products that will require that. And we do have an open question internally as to whether the whole thing is open source. We don't know yet.
Posting situations, you have Steam Power. You can lose that as you post or as you upvote or downvote something. And one of the plagues or benefits, however you look at it, of Steam is you can delegate. So you can delegate your Steam Power to a bot, and the bot can vote everything up, until you're exhausted and you have a reward. So the human element, the time invested, the skin in the game of the individual, that's one of the challenges, really. And in this system, I like this system a lot, but how can that gaming be prevented? Because I can see either you're creating layers, and you create layers, because it's kind of a land grab. You just have a good name for what the layer would be. There's going to be a lot of participation because of that gravitas of that name, and you're rewarded for everything that's built underneath it. So it becomes like the .com land grab. You just have a great domain name, and you got Pepsi before Pepsi got it. So it's that kind of thing that will happen in the economic model. So my question is, how can you make sure that there's time invested, not just money, not just good domain name grab or real estate grab.
With the layers, I think it's a marketplace question, and we have to decide what to do with the obvious valuable names. Right? We have a couple of different thoughts, and we just want to make sure it's very transparent and clean, so that if you actually own that domain now and or that is your business name, that you would have a chance to at least come in. We're trying to figure out some of that, and it would probably be, it's all going to be market based, right? As to the use of bots, I mean, we want integration, but if the model is close enough to correct, then it'd be more expensive than not. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to make a bot that upvotes everything. That's not what we want. That's not what that community wants. Now, theoretically, you could allow that layer itself to decide, oh, bots are okay here because it's this type of layer. And there are some cases that make sense where it would be less. It might be signals that you're seeing on a layer, so it's not like people posting in there. We also have a consideration for inside of a given layer that you can define that I have to have only identifiable people, that I don't want any anonymous activity, versus I want only anonymous activity in this layer, that if you don't have an anonymous ID, then you can't do anything, versus a mix, right? That we allow both in this layer for whatever reason. That's a big piece of it, and it ties into some of our identity, the Dragon Factor stuff. And that's, because, ideally, this would, for me, you would be able to with anonymity, still prove that you, an anonymous you, actually made this post, and that it hasn't changed since you made it, and you can prove it on the blockchain and everything else. There's some real value to that, like whether you're talking about Reddit, again, with people changing the database, or if you're talking about the chans, or you're talking about, any of these social environments that's missing right now. Like how remarkably, we had to switch completely out of Slack. When we released open source in 2016, we used Slack for almost a year until we announced we were going commercial. And we got a flood of bad money, people who were just wanting to pump and dump, and people who were wanting to come in and scam the community. And luckily, that's what we did anyway. We educated the community, even the brand new people to crypto, so that when we would get these ridiculous spams where they'd come in with my profile picture, my name, and say, oh, surprise, we're launching it tonight, send your money here, that the community pretty much knew, and we added a bunch of new admins that night, and they were able to, keep everything clean. But we realized really quickly that Slack was not meant for public forum use. Internally, in an enterprise, it makes sense, but their security, we were paying, we had everything possible. We couldn't stop bots. We couldn't stop. It's like we turn everything off, and they'd still find a way in. So we had to. And the funniest thing is, I couldn't even just close down the Dragonchain Slack, because then somebody else could take the name Dragonchain and have Slack to do precisely what we didn't want to happen. So I had to go through every single user and disable them. I don't know how many thousands of users. I had to do it one by one manually. It's crazy. So, not a fan of Slack, but yeah.
The Tinder problem is you can upvote everybody, and then sooner or later somebody will say yes. But you can't say, you only have one Thursday night available to go to dinner, right? So your opportunity cost is what you have to make the decision on. And it's kind of an economics decision. It's kind of a, this is a possible partner decision. But in a Tinder world, it's different. So when you have an upvote world, you have a limit on and it's opportunity cost. You're basically saying, I only have one opportunity to go to dinner on Thursday. So that's the kind of limit when you tie it into time, and why I like DDSS, and I like these other kind of concepts that are tied to time, and tied to the human that only has a certain amount of time to squander or to invest. So that's why I want to see it, in the forum sake. It's not just economics, it's not just money. It is the fact that you spent 30 minutes to write a post in academic kind of readable versus a picture or just a short link or something and have a similar reward. So it's an investment of time and IP, right?
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, licensing, everything. And we haven't thought too much about this yet, but the fact that everything would be marked, and whether we say you own a license or whether we have the rights to at least use it in promotional or something like that, it would make sense. Now, as to the value of one person's 5 minutes versus one person's 30 minutes, I think it's marketplace still, right? That it's like, oh, if I can spend 3 hours and it still sucks. So, this person posts a funny cat pic and makes 10 times as much. It's marketplace, right? If people value it, because then the beauty is, I think the weirdest thing about it is, funny or awe, right, might not be as valuable as it is on Reddit because the votes aren't free, right? So I was like, I might look at the cat pictures. I can have fun. Maybe I'll, but maybe, it's up to me, right? So it's a marketplace thing. Yep. Right. We're trying to gauge generation of the token that is used, because you have to retain the scarcity, right? We're trying to build that up around activity in the layer and activity of the user and the quality, right? And when we get further into the economics, hopefully, closer to end of year, right? And we're I'm hoping for end of the year, beginning of the year to do something with tokenization, right? Launch the thing and have everything tested out and have a real economy running in beta and then open it up. We have to consider those things because we have to have enough scarcity that we don't get a bunch of crap, but we can't make it so that it's so hard to post that nobody does, right? And then nobody ever comes there because there's nothing there. So it's kind of come in a mix. It's like you want people to be able to post, but you want them to be able to make mistakes and lose what they posted, the value. So. Okay.
Is there only going to be one token? Is there going to be one dragon? Because I see 7 products this coming weekend or whatever is being discussed. So if you have Dragon Factor and that has an element and that drives the scarcity of Dragon, if you have a forum like a den, you have these different things. I like the fact that they're being used. I like the fact that they're tied into BDSS, but I also am curious about will there be not forks, but will there be multiple tokens? Will Dragonchain Inc. have 10 tokens that compete in some way with the other tokens that I might invest into?
If you remember, like say the DDSS talk, the white labeling, so the token which defines the community, because it is kind of this is a crypto focused product. Not every layer is going to have its own token, right? But some of them will, and some of them that say, look, I don't care about Dragonchain or its token. I have the funny one. I'm going to let people post without any of this DDSS gating. That's fine, right? That would be open. Now, this product, yes, it'll have its own token or tokens. And we just have to decide how they're split up and the functionality of each and things like that. And we do believe there would be interactions. Early on we were saying you could do tips with Dragon, you could do various things. And anywhere in there also, and I say it's across the Dragonchain products, all of them would, not all of them, likely a lot of them will have Takara-based interfaces so that you can get in even if you're brand new 3 years from now. So, if that answered you. What's that? There will be. There definitely will be more. Yeah. This almost certainly will have its own token because if we do it, then you imagine if the value of Dragon goes up or down, it's costing more or less to make a vote. It's too complex, right? So I need something that's very stable that I can make a vote with, yet something that might be more valuable that I can stake to say, to assert this isn't spam. Really, this is a serious comment or post, and at the risk of losing that value that I'm placing, that's a different token. So. Right. 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 Yeah, it is an internal token, if you couldn't hear it, that its own token is somewhat an internal token. We're using Dragon to run this, that the Dragon Den system is actively running on Dragonchain, but it will have its own token, which is purely the model of Dragonchain, right? That if you have a business, you might or might not have your own token, and you can expose Dragonchain or not, you can expose your token or not, you might not have any reason to expose it to your customers.
Thank you, Joe. 20-minute break.
Thanks. Thank you.